G'day everyone, I'm Aza Whitnall and this is Aza World Sport, where each week I look into various different news, stories and topics from within the world of sport, but predominantly football. And this week I'm looking into who the champions of Europe were. Domestically, not in the Champions League. That's at the weekend, and I'll get into that next week. Now, I'm looking at what teams won the domestic leagues in their own countries, as well as the various different cup competitions. Now, as you can see from this fantastic map of Europe, which I actually think improves the look of Europe, you can see who won the domestic footballing league. Now, I'm not going to touch on every single one of them because that'd be a very long video, and I'm sure you don't want to sit through all of that. So I'm going to focus on Europe and arguably the world's biggest 5 leagues, which are Ligue 1 in France, the Bundesliga in Germany, La Liga in Spain, Serie A in Italy, and also the Premier League in England. Now, to kick things off, let's have a look at Ligue 1. PSG won Ligue 1, for the 4th year in a row. I know, what a shock, eh? The problem is, over there, they are so dominant because obviously they are backed by so much money that this is becoming an incredibly one-sided league. Not only did they win the league, they also won the treble. They won both of the cup competitions in that country as well for a 2nd year in a row. So now, just to give you an idea as to how dominant they are, this hasn't actually been seen as much of a success by the owners. And the reason for that is because the owners want one thing more than anything: the Champions League. So when they actually went out of the Champions League to Manchester City, they actually started saying to Laurent Blanc, unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to be keeping you on. And they started looking into Jose Mourinho. Now, at the moment, there's 1 or 2 things happening with Jose, which I'm sure will pop up in a future video. But since then, things have simmered down a little bit. Maybe they are going to give Laurent Blanc another chance to win the Champions League. We'll soon find out. But they are going to be doing that next season without their star in Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Now, he's been absolutely sensational for Paris Saint-Germain. This season, when you consider he's 34 years old, which in football terms is pretty old, in 52 games for club and country this season, he scored 50 goals. Now, that is just unbelievable. First of all, anyone of any age to do that, but especially someone in their mid-30s at the highest level of football. All right, some may argue that the French league isn't as strong as what it used to be, but it turned out to be Zlatan's final season at PSG. And come on, let's be honest, we all know where he's going. I'm looking forward to seeing him in the Premier League next season because I think we'll get an idea of just how good he really is. He hasn't got the best scoring record against English teams, so maybe this case he can actually put some of his critics to bed by joining a Premier League team. Who that'll be, we'll wait and find out. But I'm pretty confident Zlatan's coming to the Premier League, which is exciting. So that was what happened in France. PSG winning yet another treble. Moving on to Serie A, and Juventus actually became the first team in Italian footballing history to do the Italian double 2 years in a row. So in that sense, obviously you've got to give them massive credit for winning the double 2 years in a row. But at the same time, this is their 5th league title in a row. So again, another footballing league, major footballing league in Europe that has been very one-sided for a number of years now. But again, that was even more expanded upon by the fact that they won the double. But they didn't get off to the best start. However, come mid-season, or after the opening 10 games, they kicked into a drive that I think, apart from Barcelona at certain times this season, no other club in Europe's been able to do. Because from the 11th week all the way to the 36th week of the league season, Juventus went unbeaten. Only drawing once in that time, they won all their other games and actually kept 18 clean sheets along the way. Just again proving how strong they are as a team. So, from Juventus' standpoint, another absolutely fantastic season. And obviously, it's going to be a tough summer for them, I fear, because there's a lot of bigger clubs. And I say bigger clubs just for the fact that obviously Italian football in recent years has seen the decline of clubs like Inter and AC, even Juve before obviously this 5-year title reign, really dwindle a bit. So whether or not they're going to be able to hold on to the likes of Paul Pogba, Dybala, Morata, 3 really, really key players for them. So it'll be interesting to see if they do hold on to them. If they do, I think they're going to have another dominant season next season. And again, could arguably push for that Champions League with a few more additions to the squad. Moving on to Germany and the Bundesliga. And I'll tell you what, with this one, I'm going to let you guess who won this league. I'll give you a couple of clues. For a start, they play in red. Secondly, they buy all of the best players from any team that actually tries to challenge them for the title. Borussia Dortmund. Okay, have you managed to guess? It's simple. It's Bayern Munich. They won the Bundesliga for a fourth year in a row. What a domestic shock. And of course, they won the double. So, a real kick in the teeth for Dortmund, because Dortmund were really a resurgence this year. They'd started to do really well under their new manager, because of course Klopp left last season. And moving forward, I really think Dortmund are going to be trying to push Munich all the way, if their players will stop leaving for Bayern Munich. Because Bayern Munich, all right, we now know that Pep Guardiola is on his way to Manchester City. He's completed yet another double for them. And even though some see it as a real success, there are others that really doubt if that is a success for the team that Bayern Munich are and the squad that they have. Now, I can understand that. I mean, I was actually at Bayern Munich back in August when they were holding the Audi Cup there just before the domestic season started. And looking at their squad, I just couldn't see how they weren't going to win the Champions League. I mean, this is just my opinion, but I generally feel that Bayern Munich have arguably the best overall squad in world football. And even moving forward, all right, they've lost Pep, which is a blow, but at the same time, look how they've reacted to that. They've already announced that Carlo Ancelotti is going to be replacing him. That's a fantastic manager to bring in to replace Pep Guardiola. And they've already acted in the transfer market big time. They've signed arguably the hottest talent in world football at the moment, in terms of young talent, in Renato Sanchez from Benfica, beating Manchester United for his signature. And they've done it to Dortmund again. And you can't help but just feel sorry for Marco Reus at this point, because Bayern Munich have now signed Mats Hummels from them as well. So they've taken Hummels, Lewandowski and Götze from Dortmund in recent years and literally ripped apart the spine of that team. So you can only see already the Bundesliga going one way next season. I'll just be very interested to see if Ancelotti manages to win the Champions League. But I think that also depends on who they may sell in the summer, because there could be a few exits, but we'll wait and see. On to La Liga, and if Zinedine Zidane had only have been at Real Madrid sooner, it does make you wonder. Because Barcelona won their 8th La Liga title this season in the past decade, which, funnily enough, actually lines up perfectly with the same amount of time that Lionel Messi has been in Barcelona's first team. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. You'll have to let me know your thoughts in the comments. But, up until a certain point of the season, towards the end, it really looked like Barcelona were running away with this. However, they suffered a bit of a meltdown and they just managed to hold on to the lead that they got over Real and Atletico. But Atletico and Real did push them all the way. It was the closest La Liga title race that we've seen for an awfully long time. And I've got a really good feeling for next season with La Liga. Okay, it's not as one-sided as Ligue 1, the Bundesliga, or Serie A in terms of Juve, PSG and Bayern's dominance. It is a 3-horse race, but next season I think could be the most exciting La Liga season we've seen for an awfully long time if Zidane stays at the helm of Real Madrid, because they pushed Barca all the way. They really came out of the blue in the end because they hadn't had the best start and I suppose middle of seasons really. So really, really big improvement from Real Madrid later on. And hey, they could end up with the Champions League. It's between them and Atletico on Saturday, which I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how that goes down. So it's going to be interesting next season. Don't forget, Barca only won the league by a point in the end. So next season, with a few signings, depending on who exits each of those clubs, La Liga is going to be very, very exciting next season. Barca also managed to clinch the Copa del Rey, so they did win a double in the end. They couldn't do the Champions League treble. Atletico knocking them out of the Champions League at the quarterfinal stage. But again, it does show the dominance of Barcelona, and I think you can easily put it down to 3 players in particular for them, and that is their front 3 in terms of Neymar, Suarez, and of course Lionel Messi, who, between the three of them, you can see their stats from this season alone are remarkable. But if you actually add in last season as well, considering that Suarez is obviously banned for a certain period of time, Messi's also been injured throughout this season as well, they've actually scored between the three of them over 250 goals since Luis Suarez made his debut, and they actually became a front three. So another thing that I really want to know from you guys in the comments below, do you feel that these three are arguably the greatest attacking trio in footballing history? And finally, the fifth and final league, on to the Premier League. Now, this season in the Premier League, we saw something completely different. As we know, Leicester City shocked the world, not just the sporting world, but the world as a whole, by winning the Premier League. And if you haven't seen how Leicester managed to do that, then please check out my previous video. You can find the link in the bio below to that. But they were the fourth different winner of the Premier League in the last 4 seasons, which is something that we haven't seen in any of Europe's other top footballing leagues, as you can see from this stat behind me right now. But at the same time, we also had different winners of the Cups. Manchester City won the League Cup, and Manchester United won the FA Cup. Again, these are things that we aren't seeing in other footballing leagues around Europe. So with that comes a very big question. Is the Premier League the best footballing league in the world? Now, I generally see Europe as the best footballing continent on the planet, so I don't generally waste my time saying, oh, you know, is it the best league in Europe? As far as I'm concerned, those 5 leagues that I just mentioned are pretty much the best 5 leagues in the world, really. When you look at the teams that are in them, the fact of who the biggest clubs in the world are, they're all in Europe. So, is the Premier League the best league in the world? Well, obviously there are many people, especially in England, who would say that that's the case. But there is also an argument that La Liga, even though you could say it's more of a 3-horse race, is stronger. Now, don't get me wrong. What Leicester have done is a miracle. We all know that. But next season, it's safe to say that we're going to see an awful lot of change in the Premier League. The Premier League is going to be home to, without a shadow of a doubt, the best collection of football managers on the planet. You can just see from this image behind me here, you know, just some of the top managers that are going to be there, and that's quite a lot to say the least. So you can fully expect to see Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City. I would even put Liverpool back in contention for really pushing for that Premier League title. We know that Arsenal are going to be there, and who knows, maybe even Tottenham. You know, I think Tottenham need to make a few more signings, but Tottenham will be up there again, especially with the big boys, you know, now that they're going to be pumping loads of money into their squads as well. Will Leicester be able to put on another title charge? I think Leicester aren't going to give up their Premier League title without a fight, and I think they're going to do better than people may think they are going to next season. But there's also the fact West Ham are moving into a 60,000-seater stadium, and never rule off Southampton for a European place as well, because under Koeman, they're doing some pretty remarkable things themselves. So I think, without a doubt, the Premier League is the most competitive league in the world, but does that make it the best? According to UEFA, they believe that La Liga is the best league in the world. And I can see the reasons why they would think that. When you actually look at Spain versus England in terms of European competitions, then yeah, Spain is absolutely hammering England right now. Look at the Europa League. Sevilla have won the Europa League the last 3 years in a row. Absolutely smashed it. You saw it in the Europa League final this year when they beat Liverpool. And then also on the flip side, you can see in the Champions League winners. The last 3 winners of the Champions League, including this season, because of course we've got the final between the 2 Madrid clubs, have also been Spanish teams. So you can understand why UEFA see La Liga as the better league than the Premier League. But is that justified? This is what I want to know from you guys. So please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know. And also please let me know if you feel that there's anything that I've missed. And for more videos and video blogs on all things to do with wildlife, adventure and sport, then please keep it here on Aza World. Check out my other videos. I'm Aza Whitnall, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.